and this is the first regularly scheduled meeting of the Ormond Beach City Commission, August 4th, 2021. We are socially distanced in commission chambers this evening. Commissioners Persis and Selby have requested to participate in the meeting by electronic means this evening due to a health or medical issue. So the Florida Attorney General has issued several legal opinions that a member of a local board or commission may be allowed to participate in a public meeting through electronic means in extraordinary circumstances when a quorum of the commission is otherwise physically present at the meeting. The Attorney General has consistently opined that absence due to a health or medical condition constitutes an extraordinary circumstance that will allow the absent members to participate in the meeting through electronic means. We do have a quorum physically present. In the absence of any objection by any member of the commission who is physically present, Commissioners Persis and Selby will be allowed to participate in the meeting through electronic means. And then there's a whole list of supporting AGO opinions, which I will not go through so long as there's no objection. If not, we will call the meeting to order. And I hope you felt welcomed this evening by Captain Chris Ruse and Leisure Services Director Robert Carolyn, who served as our greeters this evening. I want to introduce the folks who are sitting up in front of you. Our recording secretary, Cassidy Ritz, acting city clerk, Scott McKee. On the screen is Commissioner Dwight Selby from Zone 1, Commissioner Troy Kent from Zone 2, our Deputy Mayor and Zone 3 Commissioner, Susan Persis. Also
Good evening,
on the screen,
everybody.
Commissioner Rob Littleton from Zone 4, our City Manager, Joyce Shanahan, Assistant City Manager, Claire Whitley, City Attorney, Randy Hayes, and for those of you listening online, I'm Mayor Bill Partington. At this time, if you would, please silence your cell phones, and we will have the invocation tonight, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance given by Father Roy Allison from St. James Episcopal Church.
Let us pray. Almighty God and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful city of Ormond Beach, for our Mayor Bill, for our Commissioners Dwight, Troy, Susan, and Rob, for our City Attorney Randall and our Assistant City Attorney Scott, and for their commitment to serve the people of this community. May the discussions and decisions made here tonight provide for the needs of our community, and may they bring you honor and glory. Pour out your blessings of peace, protection, and provision upon our first responders, our city employees, our civic leaders, and all those who live and work in this great city. Help us to break down the walls of violence and hatred and racism, and fill our hearts with care, compassion, and love for all people. We thank you, Lord, for our many blessings you provide us, and may we use those blessings to be blessings to others, this night and always. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audience remarks. Tonight we have one card, Linda Williams.
I didn't bring my glasses. All right, Linda Williams, 131 Bazarvi. We had our monthly, what? Oh, there. You're up here. Thank
We've all
you.
been there, yes,
I
ma'am.
wonder if I was something on top of my head. Okay, thank you. And so we had our monthly meeting the first Monday of every month of Common Ground Civil Discourse, and discussed what issues would be coming up. And one of the things that was at the core of all the issues was citizen awareness and participation. And when it's best for citizens to come in on a subject and to be also invited in, which I know we always are invited. So one suggestion was that if you have plans we know that plans have been talked about, further plans for 56 North Beach Street, and we would like to have a meeting regarding the property and what to do with it next, and combine it with the parking situation, so that this can be considered along with what citizens would like to do with the property. And so that's our input, that we would like to be a part of what to do next with it before putting in a parking lot, and helping with assisting with an overall plan for downtown parking. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The approval of the minutes from the July 13th, 2021 special City Commission meeting and the July 20th, 21 City Commission meeting. Those will be available for approval at the August 17th, 2021 City Commission meeting. So for tonight's meeting, apparently there are no approval of minutes. So I'm not even sure why that's on there. But anyway, we'll move to the consent agenda. Item number 7. Anyone wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? Commissioner
Mayor,
Persis?
I'd like to pull item K.
Anyone else?
Motion to approve the consent agenda absent item K.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 7K.
7K is the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2021 to 2022 and to fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
Sub move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Selby.
Yeah, so I just was maybe Kelly could address a couple of comments. As I reviewed the attachments, the first one was regarding downtown, the CRA, and the water taxi money. And my recollection from the workshop was that we had postponed that. I know it's been redefined as alternative transportation in the downtown, but it appears to still be in the upcoming fiscal year. And my recollection was that we postponed that to the following fiscal year.
There was some discussion about postponing it, but the final consensus was that we would keep it in for next fiscal year. We'd rename it. We'd look at other options besides a taxi, right? That would be one of the options. And then we would bring it back to the commission for decision.
Okay, so and I guess the write-up, what the 50 grand is for is to physically design something, yet we don't even really know what we're designing, do we? That's sort of a general question to the City Commission.
If I may just add, Mayor.
Sure.
I think our intention from the staff perspective was to take a look at it and bring you back some ideas. And it may be that we would move towards design. It may be that we would have to move towards a broader study to provide you the options you want.
I think that sounds right. And Commissioner Selby, it may be something we need to work with Main Street on to determine the right approach, whether we need to have a joint workshop or some kind of further discussion with them. I mean, a water taxi sounds charming, but everywhere just about in the state they've been tried, they fizzle out after, several months or a year or two. So maybe an electric vehicle that shuttles people back and forth, or a van that shuttles people back and forth. Given us this year to talk about it, those $50,000 could be reprogrammed into the purchase of that, plus hiring somebody to run the shuttle back and forth if that's what we end up doing with. We may even, contract with Votran to run some type of shuttle back and forth if that's what we decide to do. Every possibility, I guess, is on the table to provide that transportation service that bridges the gap, if you will. We just don't know what it's going to be at this point, and so we need to. The dollars will be there, but we just need to make that decision in consultation with our residents and business organizations and figure it out. That's how I took it from how we left it at the budget meeting. City Manager Joyce Shanahan. A little feedback.
Sorry. As you know, Mayor, all those items in the capital budget, anything $25,000 and over has to come back to you. So I think that's more of a placeholder than it is anything else.
Very good.
Very good. The second question was the ARPA funds, the 4.9 million. I couldn't find the page that that those are actually allocated on.
Those projects are throughout the CIP, so there's not one particular page. I think we reference it at the beginning in the transmittal letter, but I would say that the majority of the projects that will be funded through water and sewer, which are approximately $7 million of projects, and $4.6 million were scheduled to be funded through the ARPA.
Yeah, and I didn't see the page where it references source of funds. It was ARPA funds on water and sewer. Help me find that location.
What you're going to find is a summary, not a specific detail. Let's see. So if you take a look at page 18, right, there's a summary there. We have it noted as bond proceeds because we may have to issue bonds first, right? Obviously, we're not going to get the cash up front. But that would be reimbursed through the ARPA funds.
I thought we do get ARPA funds.
We've gotten half of them. We've only gotten half of them. We're not going to get the other half at the end. So we may end up expending all the dollars first and only having half of the cash available to us.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right, Mayor. Well, I'm going to vote no on this item because as I stated in the workshop, the $4.9 million of ARPA funds in my mind it's completely found money, unexpected infall. And I think it should be used for extraordinary projects like beginning the process of eliminating every single gallon of reuse that goes into the coastal waterway. The city of Port Orange does not pump any reuse into reclaimed water into the river. They have sufficient storage that they are able to do that. We have a permit to pump up to 6 million gallons a day, and I suspect today, in light of all the rain we've had lately, we pumped several million gallons of reclaimed water into the river. So I would like to see us use that money for that and not for what I would call ordinary and customary repairs and improvements to our existing water and wastewater system instead. So I'm going to vote no on this item.
Understood. Anyone else? Discussion on 7K?
Yes, I would just like to point out I agree with Commissioner Selby on his general principle here, and since it's a big chunk of change, I'll be voting no also.
Very well. If there's nothing else, I'll ask Scott to call the vote.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Just need you to unmute, Commissioner Persis.
Yeah, my vote is no.
Commissioner Littleton?
No.
Commissioner Selby?
No.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. All right, so 7K fails, and the city manager wants to have a discussion about that.
so we can incorporate it into the budget. So if there are changes that the commission would like to suggest, I would say that we do that now. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to bring you a budget in September.
I can jump in here. I'd like to hold that 4.9 million and specifically designated for water quality projects, beginning with reuse, reclaimed water that's pumped into the river, the goal of ultimately getting to 0 gallons of our reclaimed water going into the Halifax River. And I can make that in the form of a motion if you so desire, Mr. Mayor.
If that's the motion, we can see if there's a second for discussion.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Any discussion?
I would just like to ask Kelly, what are you looking for here specifically for us to?
I need to be clear, if the dollars are going to be set aside for other projects, then we're going to need direction from the commission on the water and sewer rate that we discussed and the consensus that was reached at the commission workshop. Right.
Can you tell us how much rates are going to go up
Yes.
without those additional
Without
dollars?
the discussion we had was we could use the 4.9 million for the projects we were proposing, or it could be set aside for other uses, and we would need an additional 1.7% on top of the 1.8 we needed. So that would be a total of 3.5.
3.5%. And then not knowing exactly where the $4.9 million is going, I feel like we have a responsibility to our residents to spend those dollars in a way that benefits the most people, rather than picking winners and losers with that money. How do we ensure that we're spending the dollars in a way that benefits all of our Ormond Beach residents and isn't picking winners and losers on certain projects, I guess is the question I have. Commissioner Kent.
Believe it or not, I actually agree with you, Mayor. And I think that the plan that we came up with at a publicized workshop, and we hammered these details out with staff, I think that you're right. You know, what we agreed to will positively impact more of our residents than to use and steal the term you used, picking winners and losers. So I'm in agreement with you on that.
That's where I'm at. I mean, honestly, reuse water is probably one of the cleanest things that goes into that river. I mean, people don't realize that the reuse water is treated to a level that's almost drinkable, frankly is drinkable. And so putting it into the Halifax improves the quality of the Halifax as far as I'm concerned, based on my tours of the plant and the understanding of the process of how we create reuse water that people use to sprinkle on their lawns, and then whatever's left over, when it is left over, goes into the river. So the fact that reuse water goes into the river really doesn't bother me, because it's one of the cleanest types of water that goes into the river. Certainly, I mean, you want to get to 0 at some point if you can. Port Orange has an unusual situation where they have land west of 95 that allows them to have some huge lakes that they used grant money from the Water Management District to create for reuse water. We haven't found an area to do that yet, but it's something we could certainly explore. So, Commissioner Kent.
Thank you. And Mayor, Commissioner Selby and I at that workshop, we disagreed on a water sewer rate increase. I consider it a tax on you, on me. I'm a taxpayer as well, and I think it has way more of an impact. We've talked about this than the ad valorem tax, because this is every month our residents are going to be hit with this 3.5% increase that I am not comfortable with. I don't think it's the appropriate time. Especially when, majority of us, it was a 4-1, I believe, that we were on the same page as far as our ad valorem property tax rate, because we weren't going to roll back. That money, if my memory serves me right, is covering our new safety, security, fire, police funds to make sure that they are always funded, because our residents deserve and expect to have emergency services, the best of the best whenever they need them. And in addition to that, they want great water quality and they want great roads to drive on. So that's why I too will not be voting for a change at the last minute.
Understood. The other problem is, and this is happening across the state, probably across the country, with these additional federal dollars that are coming in, it's, some commissions are setting up a special project slush fund for commission priorities that go to pick winners and losers, like I said before, rather than benefiting all their residents in a way that makes sense. All those residents presumably paid into those federal taxes, so they should get the benefit of that, rather than setting those dollars aside, letting a small number of people choose particular projects that they like, that are their priorities, and make that decision. So even though it may not be my favorite idea to use it that way, rather than getting into a decision of trying to figure out what pet projects of ours are going to get those $4.9 million, I think staff's choice was the wisest to get the maximum benefit for the use of all those dollars for every taxpaying resident in Ormond Beach. So, City Manager Shanahan.
I would like to remind the Commission that just this past legislative session, the Senate Bill 64 was passed, and it, as far as us to come up with an outline of a plan by November 2021, and at our last meeting we talked about a workshop to do just that. But you don't have to implement that plan until 2032 to have zero discharge to the river. So I have a little bit of a concern that you don't have any specific projects earmarked for that money. You do have a timeline to spend that of the funds. So I just think we all need to be clear with that. I think we have 2 years to spend the first tranche and 2 years to spend the second.
So that's where we're at. Commissioner
Do you
Littleton.
want me to speak? Yes, I really, truly want to have a positive impact on the environment with this money, and something generational. And I truly think this money is, and how we spend it here can have that type of impact. I really think the plan we had before us now was only going to push off the raising of rates that were required to do the sort of stuff we needed done anyways. So I would like to instead have that generational impact with this free money now.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes, I was wondering if we could compromise so we can achieve a reduction in reuse water going into the river and still benefit as many people as possible.
And what's your proposal?
Well,
There's a motion on the
maybe-
floor, so I guess it would be an amendment to that motion.
I'm not really sure. I was just wondering if we could just have a compromise. I did not realize this was going to cause a whole change in what we talked about at our budget meeting. That is not my intent.
Mayor, if you don't mind.
Go to Kelly and then Commissioner Kent.
Okay. I just want to take us back just for a minute to that workshop. We understood that there was some interest on the commission, significant interest on the commission, to maybe move forward with some other water and sewer projects. And what we talked about at that meeting was the fact that we don't have specific plans for those projects yet, right? We don't really know what you're envisioning, and we don't have plans. However, we do have some specific ideas for the $4.6 million worth of projects that we proposed. And so what we suggested to you is that based upon the water and sewer increases we discussed, which was 1.8% for next year, and then a second one for the year out, that would give us an opportunity to get more information from you about specifically what types of additional projects you want to do. They happen to be reuse projects. We could put a plan together next fiscal year, bring it back to you next fiscal year, potentially design it next fiscal year, and then have enough money with the rate increase that is proposed for 22-23 to bond those projects, right? And so I thought that was a pretty good compromise, if you will, that we were able to use the ARPA money for the projects that we had presented, making sure, we already have some of those designed, we can meet the deadlines, but still address the issue that you have, which is you have some additional projects that you want to get done, and we don't have to raise the rates 3.5% next year to do that. So, I think we can accomplish everything that you seem to want, but of course we don't have all the specifics yet.
Understood.
And then whatever way you do go on this, if the motion could incorporate approving the remainder of the CIP as it is, we need to make sure we're clear about what's going to be included in the proposed budget, which we have to bring back to you the first meeting in September.
Thank you. Commissioner Kent.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm going to yield for a moment just because Commissioner Selby's had his hand up, and I want to allow him to have a bite at the apple before I have my third, and then I'll respond after him. So that's
Yeah,
okay.
actually, why don't you go ahead and have your third bite first, and then I'll respond.
Sure. So the only thing I was going to say was, Deputy Mayor Persis mentioned that she didn't realize it was going to create the situation that it's created, and I was just going to say that she and, frankly, any of the other commissioners are welcome to just switch their vote back and say that they're okay with the plan we came up with several weeks ago at our workshop.
I think that's right. And I think staff was ahead of us on this issue, really, and had already come up with a compromise, essentially, that satisfies the goals, maybe not as immediately as we had hoped, but we'll see where we're at. But let's go to Commissioner Selby.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm sort of, I've got a whole bunch of comments that I'd like to make. The first one is, I would not recommend you drink any reclaimed water. In fact, there's signs pretty much everywhere where reclaimed water is spread on public property to not drink it. It's not potable, and it may be near potable, but it is not safe to drink. That's number one. Number two, really the single biggest issue here is we're taking this $4.9 million which is a total windfall. I've said this before, but it's a total windfall. I hate to call it a gift because it's actually the federal government sending back money they haven't taken it from us yet. We're somehow going to have to figure out how to pay the federal government this money they're now sending to us. But nonetheless, it is going to come to us. And what we're going to use it for is what I would call normal and ordinary repairs and maintenance to our water and wastewater system. And for that, so we take this nearly $5 million worth of money, and for that, we allow the residents of Ormond Beach to have a water and sewer rate that is 1.7% lower this coming year, 1 year, 1.7% lower than it would be otherwise. And that's it. That's all they get for it. Nothing else. I liked what Commissioner Littleton said when he said, I want to do something that's generational. And that's something that, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We will never take the first bite out of this elephant. We will not work on this project until we're forced to. And City Manager Shanahan told us that the state is now going to force our hand because we have to develop a plan to get to where we're at 0 gallons within 10 years. And we have to have that plan in writing to the state by early this fall. The second thing is the notion that we also talked about septic to sewer. I'm not going to talk about that today, although we did talk about that in the workshop. And both the mayor and you, Commissioner Kent, have talked about your desire to move on those projects as well as water quality. Frankly, I don't understand the notion that a small group of people benefit from improving the environment. I think everybody benefits from that. I'm not really sure where that comes from or what the picking winners and losers, I think was your exact phrase. I don't see how anybody's a loser by improving the environment, by improving the water quality in the intercoastal waterway. I can recall people addressing the city commission talking about days when, not too many decades ago, when the water was crystal clear in the intercoastal waterway, and you can see grass growing on the bottom. And these are all things that have been impacted by the degradation of water quality, including reclaimed water. So with that, I'll say I do support the rest of the CIP. I guess I'd like to get this amendment passed first. Maybe City Attorney Hayes can tell us exactly what to do, but I'd like to get this motion passed to get the funding done. And as far as, there was a comment made by the finance director that we don't have specific projects and we don't have enough time. Well, I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, we have over 2 years, don't we, to spend the first half of the $4.9 million. We only get the first half now, and then it's 2 years later that we get the second half. So I think we have at least 2 years to develop the plan to spend that money. So I'd like to move forward with the vote on this. I do support the rest of the CIP, and if investing this money in water quality instead of making ordinary repairs triggers the need for a 1.7% increase in user fees, it's not a tax. You get charged for water and sewer based on how much you use. It's not a tax. Then if that needs to be a friendly amendment to this motion, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Persis.
Yes, I would like to change my vote. I don't think I was absolutely clear, so I would like to go back, and I am fine with how it was at the beginning.
All right, so that would be a no vote on the current motion, and then, Randy, if I'm correct, and then we would recall 7K. Okay, I think that'll be the most expedient way to handle it. So, Scott, please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton?
I don't think that's,
Oh,
Randy, can you help us out?
Yep.
Mid-vote.
Needs to vote no on the
I'm
amendment.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not remembering the whole question right now. So, but if I'm voting no, then sorry.
This is on the amendment.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So she's voting no on the amendment. Okay. And Commissioner Littleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Selby?
Yes.
Commissioner Kent?
No.
Mayor Partington?
No. And now we will call 7K.
Okay. And Commissioner Littleton?
Let's make.
Sorry.
Need a motion?
Second for 7K.
Okay.
Move approval, 7K.
Second.
All right. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton?
No.
Commissioner Selby?
No.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. And we will move to public hearings. Oh, actually, let me go back and say now is the appropriate time if anyone wishes to comment on any of the other consent agenda items.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes, I'd like to speak briefly on item C, our South Ormond Neighborhood Center, the gymnasium project. Former Commissioner Rick Boehm is in the audience, and he's a member of our Leisure Service Advisory Board. And this was one of their top priorities. And I am extremely pleased that the South Ormond Neighborhood Center will be receiving this fantastic improvement. And I thank this commission for their support in this. This will not only benefit the residents of Zone 2 and the children in that community, it will benefit the entire city. So thank you, Commission, and thank you, Commissioner Boehm.
Anyone else? We'll move to 8A. I'll open the public hearings and ask our acting city clerk to read 8A by title.
Ordinance number 2021-20, an ordinance amending Chapter 1, General Administration, Article 3, Definitions and Acronyms, Section 1-22, Definitions of Terms and Words, and Chapter 2, District and General Regulations, Article 3, General Regulations, Section 2-50, accessory uses of the Land Development Code to add definitions and accessory use standards to allow mobile food dispensing vehicles, food trucks, under certain conditions and within certain zoning districts, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability and setting forth an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance number 20 read by title only.
Thank you. I don't have any cards.
Move approval of item 8A.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8B.
Ordinance number 2021-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 6, Architectural Design Standards, Section 3-70, Special Structure Provisions of the Land Development Code to amend the requirements for motor vehicle service station canopies, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability and setting forth an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2021-22, read by title only.
Thank you. I don't have any cards.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8C.
Ordinance number 2021-25, an ordinance amending Chapter 1, General Administration, Article 3, Definitions and Acronyms, Section 1-22, Definitions of Terms and Words, and Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 2, Environmental Protection Standards of the City of Ormond Beach Land Development Code by amending the floodplain management and protection regulations and repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for applicability, severability, and an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-25, read by title only.
Thank you. I don't have any cards, and I will ask our planning director, Stephen Spraker, to speak about this one.
Good evening, Stephen Spraker, Planning Director. The city participates in the community rating system, which provides a discount to policyholders within the floodplain. This amendment is being brought to you as a requirement. Both the community rating system and the Florida Building Code changed their standards, and the purpose of this is to make it consistent with those standards. It adds language to accessory structures for floodplain purposes and adds text regarding elevation requirements for manufactured homes. Again, it is consistent with the floodplain standards of the community rating system and the Florida Building Code. It was also reviewed by the Florida Department of Emergency Management. The Land Development Code amendment was reviewed by Planning Board and recommended approval for 7-0, and staff also recommends approval.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen?
Move approval.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis,
I may have. Oh, here she comes. We're voting, Commissioner Persis, on 7C. I'm not sure if you were able to hear. There was a unanimous planning board recommendation, and there were no cards, and so far no discussion.
Yes. Yes, I heard.
Thank you.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 7D.
Ordinance number 2021-26, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 5, Utility and Infrastructure Design Standards, Section 3-61, Utility line extensions of the Land Development Code to require water and sewer lines be extended across the site frontage for new development where utility extensions are required, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-26, read by title only.
Thank you. I'll ask our planning director, Stephen Spraker, to speak on this item, and then I have one card.
This action is a Land Development Code amendment brought forward by our Utilities Division. By policy, they have required water and sewer lines to be extended across site frontages for new development. The request is to put it as part of our Land Development Code. Other jurisdictions, such as Port Orange, Volusia County, have these standards that requires development to extend water and sewer lines throughout the site frontage. The text amendment is pretty simple, just a couple sentences. It's within the packet. The planning board did recommend approval 7-0. Staff is also recommending approval of the amendment.
Thank you, Stephen. And the one card is from Dwight Durant.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, staff. Thank you. I just wanted to address this. I want to let you know I'm here also for Ormond Crossings to Ford Properties, and myself as Zepco and Associates, an engineer who practices this. I want to let you know I don't have a problem with what you're trying to do. I understand it's a policy now, and this makes it an ordinance. But I'd like to make a couple of suggestions. Since it will become an ordinance, my understanding is it has zero flexibility. And the wording in it says the entire length of residential or commercial property. I don't see any flexibility in that. To me, property is ownership. There's no real definition of what the property is. And I think the intent is to take it across the project site. And if you have a development that is multi-phased, you take it across that phase. In the case of Ormond Crossings, the next part of development may be just south of the Security First site, and by this definition, you would have to take the water line and the sewer line, in my opinion, all the way down to Harmony, which is a mile. And that's not the intention. I have spoken with staff, and we're in agreement with that. I'm not commenting on the ordinance itself. But I don't really see, the problem is the definition of property to me, and I would suggest or request that after the word property, you add something to the effect of as defined by the limits of the site plan, the subdivision plat, or phasing line. And then a second comment is there's really no mechanism to appeal this ordinance. When it's a policy, common sense could play, and you could have through SPRC, a decision being made of what to do. So I understand the ordinance puts some teeth in it. We don't have to argue about it every time, but there still should be some mechanism to allow the common sense, something to allow maybe the planning director, the public work director, city manager to say, no, this is the first phase and it goes right here, not the entire length of the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, did you want to address that?
So we've internally discussed some language that we think may address Mr. Durant's concern, because I think the concern is with project with master utility plans that the intent is not to require those to extend at the full length as he described there. So we came up with wording, except for property that is subject to a master utility plan that has been approved by the city, and then it goes on to the water and sewer. So we think that would address the issue for master plan developments. Every decision I make is appealable to the city commission. So if an SPRC decision is made and an applicant doesn't agree with it, they have the ability to appeal it and come to the city commission and seek redress.
Well, Stephen, where's the rub? I mean, the purpose of the requirement is to facilitate, stub out and facilitate the utility service to adjacent properties, right? So
correct.
This ordinance does that?
Correct. So basically they can't, we do it now by policy. So, but there's no teeth to it per se. So our utilities division would like to have it as an ordinance. So it has the effect of law. So again, we understand the concerns, and we all talked to Dwight, and he brought some really good points. So we can add a condition that master, plan subdivisions can do that in phase by phase, as he was saying. So we think we can address his issue and maintain the language that's in the amendment.
Okay. And I don't want to go changing everything because of interpretation that he has that is not an interpretation that staff would ever have.
We would not require Ormond Crossings to extend the Security First water line a mile, nor did we when it came under site plan review.
Right.
So what he's saying is basically when I win the lottery and there's a new plans director and a new public works director, they may have a different interpretation. So I think he's trying to ensure that we're all reading the language the same way. Staff doesn't object to what he's saying, and we think this would serve Mr. Durant's issue and still make the utility policy into an ordinance.
So the additional language you proposed, you think makes that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir. I see your hand there.
Thank you. So I'm just, I just like to back up a little bit. What problem are we fixing? Because we have one engineer representing one client, and for the record, I want to state that I spoke to one of the principals on Ormond crossings earlier today. But it sounds to me like we have a policy that works fine right now, and for some reason we're being asked to turn that into an ordinance. I haven't heard any or read anything that says that the policy hasn't worked very well. Can you answer that, Stephen? I mean, has there been a problem? I mean, is it policy not working well now?
When you have ordinances in a site plan review versus policy, it's much clearer for both the engineer, the developer, and city staff. So while a lot of debate and a lot of conversation has occurred regarding this policy, it is common practice, and again, if you look at other jurisdictions, this is the exact same language as in the city of Port Orange. So it's common for jurisdictions to lay out what the expectations are. If there's disagreement, they can always appeal our decisions, or they can go through a plan development and negotiate standards. But the issue is we're doing legislation through policy and not an ordinance.
Okay. My concern is the law of unintended consequences that we pass, what I would call a rather, I mean, this is actually pretty broad language here. And as I read it, I mean, it caused me some concern. I went on to read the reimbursement procedure, how I can get paid back if I have to build this line, several hundred feet, whatever, these lines. And I have some concerns about that also, but that's not on the agenda for tonight. So, I guess what I'm hearing you say is that it would be nice to have it in an ordinance, but I didn't hear you say it's not working now as a policy.
It's something that is subject to interpretation, and you may not have the utility extension that you desire and that would be equitable to future property owners. So basically, the property owner who's developing could argue with city staff that they only have to develop it 200 feet instead of 400 feet. So the next property owner that comes along has to extend the additional 200 feet they didn't extend, plus their extension. There's an equitable expansion of the utilities, and that's what this amendment's seeking to do.
Basically, just make that clear. So if somebody wants to make a motion, including your language that addresses staff's language that addresses Dwight's concerns, that would be appropriate. Or if somebody wants to propose something different,
We'll move Stephen Spraker's proposed amendment to the proposed ordinance.
And Randy, since this is coming back to us, it'll come back with the included language?
Yes, sir, it will. For purposes of what you're doing this evening, if the maker of the motion, and the seconder of the motion want to treat their motion as including that additional language, as stated by the planning director, then that'll be sufficient for purposes of the amendment. And then we will include that in a revised ordinance that will come back to this commission on second reading.
Okay. And you're okay with that, Commissioner Selby, as the maker of the motion?
I am, yes.
Okay. And I thought I heard.
And I will second the motion, yes.
Commissioner Kent will second. Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8E.
Ordinance number 2021-27, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, District and General Regulations, Article 6, Overlay Districts, Section 2-70, Downtown Overlay District of the Land Development Code to update the section consistent with the 2019 Downtown Master Plan Update, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-27, read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. And I'll ask Planning Director Stephen Spraker to speak on this item as well.
This land development code seeks to amend our downtown overlay district consistent with the 2009 downtown master plan. The master plan changed the name of the 3 districts. So what this amendment would do is to make those consistent within our land development code. A few years back, there was a comprehensive plan amendment that amended the floor area ratio. It was never updated in the land development code. So that's a housekeeping item that's incorporated. And then section H is cleaned up. There are no changes to the language. It's just separated into a permitted use and a prohibited use. And then the last one incorporates a redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan is allowed in the B4 zoning district. It should also be allowed under overlay district. So this amendment really is refreshing and cleaning up this district to make it current with our master plan. The planning board reviewed it and recommended approval 7-0. Staff is also recommending approval.
All right. You said 2019 Downtown Master Plan
Correct.
Update? Okay, good deal. I don't have any cards.
Move approval?
Second?
Any other discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8F.
Ordinance number 2021-28, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 5, Utility and Infrastructure Design Standards, Section 3-55, Bicycle and Pedestrian Ways of the Land Development Code to allow payment in lieu of construction and constructing sidewalks under certain conditions and requiring sidewalks on both sides of the street in new subdivisions, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-28, read by title only.
Thank you. Stephen, this is 2 meetings in a row that you've been the star of the show. 8F.
This land development code seeks to amend how we treat sidewalks. There's 2 aspects to it. The first is to allow a payment in lieu of constructing sidewalk on very limited conditions, and the second is to require sidewalks on both sides of new subdivisions. We've done the requiring of both sides through plan development, so we've done it through negotiation. So we've done it for both Pineland and Cypress Trails are 2 examples. We've had some questions. Why in the world would you allow someone to pay into a fund versus constructing a sidewalk? There are unique conditions. The one that immediately comes to mind is Ace Hardware, where there's a master plan sidewalk in that area. There are drainage issues. So basically the goal is there are certain mitigating circumstances which do not allow the sidewalks to be constructed. The applicant doesn't basically get that waived. They pay into a fund, and that goes either to help the grant or it goes into a sidewalk fund for the city. It was recommended approval by the City Commission by a 6-1 vote. Staff is also recommending approval. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for Stephen?
I have one question, Mayor.
Commissioner Littleton.
Mr. Spraker, let's say if houses are only built on one side of the street, does a sidewalk still have to be put on the other side? And does the first section, the payment in lieu of construction, take care of that?
The payment in lieu wouldn't take care of it unless there's some unusual drainage or some condition that would make it impossible to do. There are portions of subdivisions where they have wetlands or common area that would still require the sidewalk because there are houses on either side of the other side of the street. So, even though you may not have a house, you may have a common area, a recreation area. The goal is to encourage walking and pedestrian movement. So yes, it would be required on both sides of the street. They could always come to the commission and, through a plan development, say they only want to do it on one side of the street and basically argue why it should only be one side.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I'll move approval of ordinance 2021-28.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8G.
Ordinance number 2021-29, an ordinance amending Section 8-3, local amendments to building code of Article 1 in general of Chapter 8, building and construction regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ormond Beach to amend the schedule of permit fees, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-29, read by title only.
Thank you. Stephen?
This is an amendment to the Code of Ordinances. It amends the schedule of building permit fees. The last major amendment was done in 2008. There have been basically a major rewrite, and the way we did it was we posted the amendments to our website. We sent emails to all our users within our permitting system. We sent it to the Volusia V-Card, and then we had 2 meetings on June 17th. The way we came up with the amendments is we looked at the 3 aspects of a building permit. The administrative, which includes everything from the general intake, the processing of the permits, and at the end, the archival of the system. We looked at the permit review, so our building code review, land development code, utilities, engineering, stormwater, and then we also looked at the required inspections. So fee by fee, we went through and established a change of the fee schedule. We also looked at other jurisdictions to ensure that we were consistent. I would not say it's the highest fees, of the Volusia County cities, but they do cover the cost associated with those 3 actions, which are what staff is doing for the building permit fees. Staff is recommending approval. If there are any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions for Stephen?
Move approve.
I think Susan wanted a question.
Yeah, I had a question. When was the last time these fees were raised? Was it 2008?
2008.
Okay. No, I think it's great. Thank you.
Is that a second, Commissioner Persis?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. All right. Any other discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 8H.
Ordinance number 2021-30, an ordinance amending Section 8-10, application processing fees of Article 1 in general of Chapter 8, building and construction regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ormond Beach to amend application processing fees, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-30.
Thank you, Scott. Stephen, just briefly.
So these fees have been amended more frequently. The key portion of the planning fees are the advertising fees. So what this does is spells out specifically, and we also moved the non-Florida building codes like sheds and fences to the planning fees. We created a fee that is less for small projects, and then we charge the fees that we experience for administrative variances, plan developments, and site plans. Staff is recommending approval of the ordinance. If there are any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer.
Any questions for Stephen?
I move approval.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes, and we will close the public hearings and move to 9A.
This is ordinance number 2021-24, an ordinance approving the final plat for the Ormond Gateway subdivision, a commercial 3-lot subdivision, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval and setting forth an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2021-24, read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. I don't have any cards.
I move approval of ordinance number 2021-24.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes, and we go to resolutions 10A.
It's resolution number 2021-125, a resolution approving a corrected legal description to the special exception development order pertaining to the Ormond Memorial Art Museum and Gardens project located at 78 East Granada Boulevard and setting forth an effective date. It's resolution number 2021-125, read by title only.
Thank you. And Stephen, did you want to talk on this one? No, right. I don't think there's really any need. I don't have any cards. Just need a motion in a second.
Move approval of resolution number 2021-125.
Second the motion.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Mayor Party.
Yes. And we are at reports, suggestions, and requests. And tonight we start with City Manager Joyce Shanahan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I provided a detailed report of this last month's activities within your agenda packet, but specifically, we're asking the commission to have a workshop on August 24th, or with a fallback date of August 25th, regarding transportation issues. At a minimum, we have A1A in the pedestrian crossings, and secondly, Nova Road. FDOT would come and make a presentation on those two issues. We spoke today with HDR about the work they're doing for Avalon. We're not sure that they're going to be ready in time to do that at the August 25th meeting or the August 24th meeting, and so we would likely push that off till September. But FDOT is ready to discuss what they're proposing for A1A and Nova Road. And so I know one of those is not a commission meeting day, but wanted to see what your availability were on those 2 days.
I would prefer August 24th. It's a Tuesday, right?
Commission, anybody have an issue with?
August 24th works for me just fine.
August 24th is fine for me.
Looks like August 24th it is.
I don't
What time was that?
have anything further. Pardon me?
What time was it?
5:30.
5:30. Okay.
I don't have anything further unless you have any questions for me, so we'll schedule that for August 24th in room 103.
Great, thank you. Any commissioner have a question for City Manager Shanahan? Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley. Thank you. City Attorney Randy Hayes.
Tonight, thank you.
All right. And tonight we start with Commissioner Selby.
No comment tonight, folks.
Next, Commissioner Kent.
I'll start with one of our attorneys, Scott McKee. It was like a blast from the past, almost like Back to the Future. It took me by surprise to see you, and I know you were a little worried if you would be able to knock the dust off of it, but I'm going to give you a solid 9 for tonight. You've got what it takes, and I'm glad that, we have an employee who will leave a department to fill in, and it just goes to show really the great attitude and care for the city that you have. So I publicly wanted to thank you. I just have 2 more quick ones. The next one is to someone in the audience, Travis Sargent, who I have been friends with since elementary school. And, you have really taken a liking and become involved with your city, and you're not afraid to stand up for what you believe in and sometimes take it on the chin. And I appreciate your steadfastness and your ethics on things. So I just wanted to publicly say that. And then third, my last comment is our IT director, Ned Huda, just retired a couple of days ago after 17 years with the city. I hope he's not listening online. I hope he's doing something great with his retirement. But Ned was a class act, and he was an extreme professional. And he loved taking his vacations, and I loved hearing about them. And I just wanted to say that I wish Ned Huda nothing but the best. And with that, good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Deputy Mayor Persis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure sorry I'm not there in person. I'm a bit under the weather, and I don't mind letting everybody know I contracted COVID I was vaccinated in January. I had the Pfizer vaccine. I had, 2 shots in January. I had no idea that I could get COVID. I mean, I thought there was a small chance, but I just didn't think I was going to get it. But clearly I did. And I've been not feeling the best, but I'm slowly getting better. So I just want to tell everybody out there, if you're in a crowd, wear your mask. If you haven't been vaccinated, please get your vaccine because you're protecting other people too. This is not a joke at all. So I just want to let everybody know that. I do want to say, first of all, I'm glad that Commissioner Kent brought up Ned Huda. I'm just so sorry that he's leaving. He's a wonderful man and has helped us all so much with our technology. And I just wish you the best, Ned. I do hope you're listening because we really do care about you and appreciate all the help that you've given us throughout the years. And then I would like to welcome our new IT director, Irwin, who helped with this Zoom meeting today and it's run great. And so, Aaron, I'm looking forward to meeting you and working with you. And welcome to the city of Ormond Beach. It is absolutely the best. And I would like to also say that last week I attended the promotion of 2 police officers last week. It was amazing to see the promotions. The whole room was packed at this event. It was really, really a nice one. So, Chief, if you're in the audience, you did a great job. I really enjoyed it. And with that, I'll say good night. Please, everybody, stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Commissioner Littleton.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, I attended the American City County Exchange Conference. I want to thank this commission for approving the travel, and thank you to the citizens of Ormond Beach for letting me go. Of course, we talked about local issues and the such, but one of the things that's a problem in other cities is whether or not they have a customer service-focused government. And I have to say, in Ormond Beach, I feel that we do. And it's proof of that. I'll say last Wednesday at 6 o'clock at night, I sent an email. A citizen had an issue with a stormwater drain that needed to be cleaned up. That was Wednesday night, 6 o'clock. 10 a.m. Thursday morning, the next day, it had already been done, and I got the email about it. That's the type of thing you get when you live in Ormond Beach, and I'm proud of our staff and our city manager for making it happen like that. And with that, I'll say good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we are lucky that we have an amazing staff that is customer service oriented. I get so many comments from people who are pleased and surprised, and when I talk to staff, they always have such a good attitude about helping the public any way that they can. This morning early, I passed one of our city trucks and they had their masks on. Even though they probably didn't need to, I think they were doing that to make the public feel more comfortable when they showed up to do whatever they had to do in the streets department. But we're lucky. I know, Joyce, you've made that a priority, customer service, and our residents really appreciate it, and this commission appreciates it as well because it makes us look good. I wanted to start by thanking Commissioner Persis and Commissioner Selby for being with us tonight. Even though they were under the weather, they still made the effort to show up, and they were prepared and ready to argue their points and make their points of view known. We always appreciate that. This whole commission is always well prepared and has read everything and is ready to go. And so we're lucky in that respect. But we do wish you the best. Hope you're feeling better and back with us in person very soon. I had the opportunity last night to go out to the Nova Recreation Center for National Night Out. It was a tremendous success. A great group showed up. Maybe not as many as in some years past, and certainly I don't know how they did it, but there was some distancing in the gymnasium, which lends itself to that anyway. A lot of the folks were outside. A lot of people had masks on, and then people were careful to social distance, but it was a great turnout. I spoke with a lot of the vendors. They were happy to be starting to get back to some in-person meetings, and the children were there. They loved the police vehicle. They loved the canine. And then, of course, the bouncy houses are always the favorites. But just seeing the interactions, there were some teenage, maybe middle school, high school age that recognized officers that they had seen at school, and they enjoyed communicating with them, talking with them. And that's the whole point of National Night Out, is getting to know your police department, getting to know your neighbors. A lot of people enjoyed the hot dogs and hamburgers as well. Even with the rain, there was still an excellent turnout. So thank you to all staff and our PD for putting that on. And then earlier today, I had the opportunity to meet with Jennifer Leonard, who's the Director of Marketing and Events. She's out of Cleveland, I think, but she's working with Burntwood Tavern that's going in at the Trails Shopping Center. Jarlene, she mentioned she had met with you even earlier than me. But they are a community partner, and they work helping groups with fundraising. And Chief or Captain, they're going to hopefully meet with you tomorrow. I've got her card to give to you, just for maybe 10 minutes or so, but she'll explain what they do for the police officers and what they do for the fire department. Some exciting opportunities there, and they're going to be involved in the community. They're mostly lunch and dinner. They market themselves as bold flavor classics with a twist. They have a really nice website, and they're expanding across Florida, so we're excited to have them in Ormond Beach. And they're at the Trails, which is kind of undergoing a renaissance with So Napa, and is it Kiki's, I think, that's coming as well, plus the new Publix that's been renovated, and all the other businesses that are there. It's an exciting time for the Trails, so just wanted to mention that. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.